I'm so happy. I love this movie so much. So, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. We're talking about it now.
Yep.
The thing that I love about, if we're, okay. I recently watched a video that is now my Bible by, I think his name is Michael Arndt? I don't remember his name. This is the guy, and I think I might have told you about it. This is the guy that wrote Toy Story 3. He wrote Little Miss Sunshine. He's amazing, amazing. But he made a video that's like an hour long, and it's called Good, Bad, and Ugly Endings, or the perfect ending, good, bad, and I don't know. I'll link it in the description. And in it, he talks about the way to write the perfect ending or the perfect story is to have 3 different sets of stakes. And you and I talked about this before because during our improv film that's on the channel, we technically achieved that. And that's why I think that movie does a lot of really cool stuff, is because it has 3 sets of stakes. The whole thing is Alan, you're freaking out, trapped in like a Groundhog's Day.
Yeah.
So your external stakes, the situation, is that you are trapped in Groundhog's Day. Will you escape it? Yes or no?
Yeah.
So like Groundhog's Day, escape Groundhog's Day. Those are the stakes. It's usually a something versus something.
Yeah.
Now, the internal stakes, emotionally, are you satisfied with what you're doing?
Yeah.
Is our friendship, like friendship versus loneliness, is what we're doing actually connecting as friends? Or are we just like going through the motions and making a video?
Exactly.
So that's the internal stakes. So we have the external stakes, Groundhog's Day, internal stakes, friendship. And then you have your philosophical stakes, which are what the audience is supposed to take home at the end of the day, which for us was making content or making art.
Yeah.
So art versus content. Those are the 3 sets of stakes. This video, it's an hour long and it's incredibly good. I think it's really worth watching. But it solidifies for me the difference between these 2 movies, which is the fact that in Doctor Strange and in Everything Everywhere All at Once, they both do the multiverse thing, but they both have the exact same sets of stakes. They're different for each character, but this is it.
Yeah.
Envying someone's life or being content with your own.
Yeah.
So you envy your multiverse versions of yourself, or you're content with where you are in your life.
Yes.
Both films do the same thing. And that's the philosophy of it. That's the philosophical stakes. Emotional stakes. Keeping who are close to you and loving your like where you are and who your friends are, or being isolated and alone and not really, and your connection to your family is not that important. Wanda. Wanda has that moment. And technically so does Doctor Strange because he's trying to work for love. So it's either about love or friendship. Like your emotional stakes are your connection to your family or the people that you love. And then finally, the external stakes, zipping zapping along the multiverse. Both of them do the exact same thing, and they do, how are we going to get home? How am I going to use the multiverse to my advantage? Both of them do the same things.
And who's using it for evil?
Exactly. Exactly. But at the end of the day, the main reason why one does it so much better than the other is the fact that Doctor Strange has to spend so much time on all these other references. It has to do all of these other things, have all these other characters. We need to introduce another Avenger. We need to see what's happening with Wanda. Everything Everywhere All at Once is predicated on the fact that like this is about one person's experience. Her other family members cameo in it, more or less. Yeah. Where we have her daughter who ends up, spoilers, her daughter who ends up like basically destroying the multiverse, her father who's trying to like keep the old guard and be like this, okay, we need to go back to how things were. Her husband who's just trying to make sure that she's okay and try to save the multiverse from the daughter. Yeah. But all of those are them acting on her. Yes. We never leave the perspective of her from this worst multiverse. Yeah. So that's why I think immediately this movie works better, because it starts off with the fact that like this is only about her stresses. Yeah. Doctor Strange has to go in all these other places, and we don't stay with the perspective of Doctor Strange for too long. We keep going with other people and other stuff. But this is so amazing because you immediately are like, I'm going to be fucking real with you. Yeah. As soon as I started talking about taxes and like, I had a moment where like nothing worse could happen to this person. Damn. Where it's just like she's getting audited and her business is failing. She has to get all of her receipts. Like once I saw the pile of receipts, I was like, and then immediately you see her husband has a divorce paper in his hand. You see that her daughter is different than she wants her to be, but her daughter doesn't feel connected to her mom, and her father is really naggy and shitty, frankly. Yeah. So all of these different elements, you see her world is crumbling, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
And it's empathizable. And then we're like, what is going to happen? And you just go on the path. So immediately, just such a different place to tackle the exact same stuff as the other movie.
So just to emphasize your point too, like about these are not the arcs, but like the similarities and whatnot. What I feel about with everything all at once is that, first of all, you're absolutely right. It's so it's I almost want to call it like a cone and not a funnel, because it's coned in on her. Where like this is the point, right? This is the entire point. Like we're following her and her everything. Yeah. But as it kind of like for me in a cone shape, you realize like, oh, these are all the people connected that is trying to like that's connected to her, kind of like a tree, right? But it's still like all on her. Unlike in Doctor Strange, like
here's everything.
Here's everything. There's another like. There's another cone example, like that Doctor Strange can do whatever they want, blah, 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 whatever, or this one, that one. At least that's what I understood from that dimension, or that movie. But yeah, no, everything is like, it's on fucking her. Yeah. It's like, it just happens that like her daughter's connected in a way. You get to learn that for her own reasons as well. But anyways,
Well, and that, you see that like both the husband and the grandpa, like other versions of them like warp into their bodies. Yeah. But both the daughter and the mom, that never happens. It's always their perspective. Yes. The only time is that like the daughter is like concerned about, like, she's just like, hey, I have a girlfriend. I want to introduce her to my grandpa. I want you to be proud of me and my choices. And you're not. So then that gets worked into by, God, what's the name of the bad guy? Oh God, I'm gonna feel so bad I don't remember its name.
Sans Undertale.
Basically.
So
God, what is her name? Anyway, I'll try to remember.
It was a strange name. So we started with the whole dimension shit first.
Is it Jobu Tupaki?
It was something Tupaki.
Yeah. Sorry,
so before this whole dimension thing, it's a woman. She is clearly struggling with her life. Everything is fucking shit. She's trying to run a successful business. It's clearly not going right. She's trying to appease her father, who's he's sick and dying, and she has to take care of him.
It already disowned her.
Like already, but he still expects shit from her. Yeah. And like then you have a husband who super gullible. You think, oh, he's just like he's
the most
gullible.
innocent person.
He's just trying to help her, but he's also trying to get out of the relationship. Can you help me with this? Is it him that wants a divorce? Is it her?
So this was hard for me to, on first watch, realize, is that on the paper it says Waymond wants to divorce. Okay. His name is Waymond. Yeah. So, but you don't know that because they don't say his name at the very beginning very much. It's hard. I thought his name was Raymond the first time I saw it. I was like, oh no, it's Waymond. And so in the credits I saw. So he wants a divorce. Yes. And when she finally reads the papers, she's just like, how dare you? Like, we made a sacred vow. Your brother gets divorced. Now you want to get divorced. And when they finally talk about it, he's like, I don't want to get divorced, but the only time I can reach out to you is when it's an emergency. And this is an emergency, and I've been trying to reach out to you and trying to be a good husband, but this whole time, like, you will not communicate with me unless the world is falling apart. That's literally.
That's how he survives. And like, it's.
Oh, that was so good. That's how he fights.
That's how he fights. That's how he fights. So you have all these problems, right? All this weight on one pair of single shoulders, right? And she's having this entire deal, and then her daughter, who super progressive, right? Like she's trying to do the right thing. Yeah. Me, a boy, I would never bring a girlfriend to my parents. That shit's embarrassing. But she's trying to do the right thing. Yeah. Hey, I have a girlfriend. I know it's non-traditional, but I'm trying to be as open. I'm trying to be as clear to y'all. But no, they don't want, like, she doesn't want any of that, not because like it makes her happy, but because she has all this shit on her. Yeah. It's like, my father's trying to upkeep fucking these traditions, and how am I gonna break to him? She seems fine with it. Like, obviously she's a little weird about it. Yeah. At first in the beginning of the movie, she's obviously trying to fight it herself. But you see all this bullshit and weight on her, and the entire time, and it's a long sequence before like all this stuff happens. You get to see her suffer through the laundromat. The laundromat doesn't look good. It's falling apart. Dealing
with like crazy customers and like
it's stuff like that, and it's just a nightmare. So we go to to the IRS scene where it's her. She's already late. Like she's late with all these tax papers and shit like that.
And lying to her father about why they're there.
Exactly. And like her father's just inevitably gonna find out. Everyone's there in this tiny little fucking cubicle, and it's all because of one little receipt. One little receipt with a fucking shape on it, with a coffee stain on it,
a big
like
black circle,
big circle on it, and they're like, "What's going on with this? Like, this doesn't make sense."
Yeah,
and everything's like, "Oh my god, everything's gonna fall apart even more because this one little piece of paper."
Well, so and this comes to another. There's just so many layers of this movie that like talking about Doctor Strange felt like talking about like. I don't know. It felt like talking about like a children's book, and now we're talking about Ulysses. Like it's just like we're diving into so much more because the whole movie predicates on like these symbols of circles and stuff like that, and that this is your life. Your life is a cycle, and you go through it, and you can either go through it happily or like monotonously, and everything's a chore. And the perfect little symbol, this one little item, is indicative of the ideas that like, okay, well, life can either be about all this minutia or it can be about the joy in it. And so this lady spends so much time harping on this one receipt. It says, you try to buy a karaoke machine for your business? Is that a business expense, you piece of shit? And so like for her to say like, you try to have fun in your life, and she deliberately says like, she first shows her the trophy of the butt plug. It says, I gotta go through a lot of bullshit. And I'm so good at my job that I can look at all of these receipts and they tell me a story. And your story is not good. But in reality, yes, to a government entity, to an IRS agent, boo-hoo. Their situation doesn't look good because it's a business. And they're looking at it from the perspective of a business that's meant to make money, and it's meant to generate this stuff, and it's meant to be on the books, and it's meant to be so organized, and life isn't like that.
It's meaningless other than right or wrong to her.
Exactly, And that like, I'm just like weighing the scales, and you're really looking bad.
And the worst part is, because I'm human too, and I have the scale on my side, I can be shitty and control your fate.
Exactly.
I can do that. It's shit like that too.
And it's so good because like if you watch the trailer, you're just like, this is the story. This is what's it about.
When you watch a trailer, you think you're watching a kung fu movie. You think you're watching like an action thing.
And that's where it goes from like this movie. And I don't know if I'll talk about it now or later, but the fact that the layers of the movie, if you compare it to like, people have taken the movie Primer and a bunch of other movies and like Inception and like put the layers on top of each other. And I feel like this movie, they show you like the web of the multiverse, but I really do think if you're looking at it like a premiere timeline, that there are all these other different stories. The multiverse. Every time they go into a different version of herself and she's a movie star or she's a kung fu whatever, that all of them exist. They all exist on the same timeline because you see that they keep, even when she wargs like keeps moving between the bodies. They're like, hey, did you take the thing to the do you take the receipts to the lady? Did you do this? They're all in the same time period. So I don't know, like it works out this way, but I don't know if they planned it, that the whole movie goes on an arc all at the same time. Every single version of her across the multiverse, all of their stories hit their climax, hit their like their big moment at the end, all at the same time, and they cut between them. And it's no other movie can do this shit, and they do it so well.
Where like in other movies, like they not so much attempt something like that, but like something similar. Where you said like for example, the whole I'm just gonna simplify it from my brain. I'm gonna call it a peak. Human peaks, our peaks. Like you said, all of the versions of herself peak at the same moment, or have these peaks at the same moment.
In their individual stories,
In other movies, it's usually like, oh, I need to go to a version where instead of me becoming a genius at this age, I was a genius like as a kid, and they do this entire thing and with like yada 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 shit progresses. You're absolutely right. We're like, anyways, go on. I'm just trying to home in on that.
Well, and just for that, for me to mention that, as we go on and as we learn all these other multiverse versions of her, they all then have their own arcs that are similar. So case in point, we start off with her, and then she's like, she has this kung fu version of herself, which I'm pretty sure is just meant to be Michelle Yeoh in real life, which is really nice. But when she shows up, like when she learns the kung fu part, that version of her is just arriving to a gala. So that's the beginning of her own little arc. And her own little arc is rekindling an old flame with an old boyfriend. So that's the beginning, that's the introduction of that character. And then as we introduce the other characters, we're introducing them on their own little moments in the same story, which is genius. But also the fact that like, it starts off with just this, like, okay, there's a big evil force, and that evil, yes, exactly. This terrible demon. First,
that
her
can
husband
destroy everything and anything.
Exactly. Like her husband shows up, and apparently her husband. Okay, so Key, the guy that the actor for the husband. Yeah. He apparently. So do you know who he is? Like in real life, this is the actor that played in The Goonies and Indiana Jones. Like the little Asian boy? Yes.
Wow, dude!
That's him.
Hell yeah!
It's so nice because he's so wholesome, and he actually worked behind the scenes for many years on films. And what he said was, unfortunately, they're like, oh, so why are you coming back to acting? He's like, well, I didn't want to leave, but as I got older, I wasn't a cute Asian kid anymore. Yeah. I was like a teenager, and there were no roles for me. Yeah. So all my friends that were on the Goonies got roles, and I didn't. And like it's so nice to hear his perspective because he says that, and he's like, so I started working behind the scenes. I was a stunt man. I did some second unit directing, all this stuff. You see his IMDb, and he's just like a bunch of other stuff. Yeah. But it's so nice because him coming back, he apparently what happened was he saw Crazy Rich Asians and then saw, holy shit, this is like an Asian-led movie. They're all like, this is it. This is the representation. And the way he says it is he says he got FOMO, and he was like, I need to be up there. I need to be with them. Yeah. So within like a week, he called a couple of agencies and was just like, will you represent me? And they're like, fuck yeah, I'll represent you. So he within 2 weeks of being represented, he got asked to do this movie. And so, which is so cute because then he's just like, I'm not gonna fuck this up. And so he not only got an acting coach, he got a stunt coach and fighting coach. Most of the fighting is him. Yeah. That is him fighting. So it's not just another stunt person.
Going back to the importance of his personal arc. Right? Yeah. Where like he saw just to emphasize the importance about like
we're talking about the husband.
Yeah, just to emphasize the importance of his roles here. This is after both Parasite and Crazy Rich Asians. Parasite, the reason I think we don't mention Parasite is because that is a Asian-led film in Asia. Not made here in the US. Exactly. Crazy Rich Asians was here in the US, right?
Yes, produced here.
That is fucking crazy rare. That's why it's a big deal.
Yes.
Right? Exactly. Going on, sorry.
Yeah, and then so for him, when he was working with his acting coach, and the reason why I wanted to bring it up is because the acting coach was like, okay, so we've looked at the script and there's 3 versions of you across the multiverse. Let's assign each of them an animal. And so the version of him in the like verse that we start off with is meant to be a squirrel. So he's just like cute and like running around. He's just trying to like make sure everything's okay. And he's like really like anxious. But then the version of him that's from the Alpha verse, which is the verse that like keeps jumping, they're the ones that like started with all this multiverse technology. That's meant to be like an eagle. He's meant to be like confident but also like pragmatic, and like he swoops in and does stuff.
And like, you got this, like perfect leader type shit. Yeah.
Exactly. And then the version of him from where he's a CEO is meant to be like a fox, where he's just kind of clever and cool and just chill. So it's so good that like we start off with this entire thing about like, okay, we have the taxes, we have all these things, but then we're introduced to his character. He kind of like warps into the body, goes and grabs the divorce papers, writes down these directions.
How does he warm into the body though?
Oh my god. Okay. Well, so he starts off. Well, he just does the like thing. Like he pops in, but then he takes out the umbrella and blocks the camera. And he says, "Okay, we don't have much time. I have to do." And it's like I have no time to explain. Exactly. Of course, sci-fi thing. But then he like writes down the directions, gives them to her, and then when he warps out, he's just like, "Wow, that was a quick elevator." And it's just.
And this entire time, she is so bogged down by all this other bullshit. She has no time for him.
Exactly.
No fucking time. Like this becomes like a normal instance now to her. It's like, oh my god, my husband is about to go crazy again. I have to get these taxes shit done.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's another thing that I love about the movie is that imagine you at home. Imagine one of the worst days of your life. Like imagine the busiest day of your life. Like imagine for us, imagine we were just about to do a shoot or a live stream that like a client has paid us a bunch of money to do. We need to fulfill this contract.
Yeah.
And then like I like immediately go, we don't have much time. We have to do this thing. And exactly. And it's just like, okay, well now we're in this.
Completely separate from the shoot.
Exactly. Yeah. No. You need to do this other whole thing.
Yeah.
While you have so much else on your plate.
Yeah.
So that's why it's like amazing that he shows up and he's like, okay, you can do these things. This is how this works. And then we get shown the different versions of her when she just starts like acting out. She changes her shoes and then she like imagines herself in the closet and then teleports there. And then the movie does such an amazing job of juxtaposition, of like comparing two moments. So in someone's life, if their business is failing and they don't have much to work with, Jamie Lee Curtis in this ridiculous outfit saying like, I don't think there's a more important conversation than the one we're having right now. And then we warp over and he's like, the universe is like folding in on itself. There's nothing more important than what we're talking about. And it's so good. And the whole movie does this whole thing of like, okay, well, how are we going to balance like these moments? And you have literally this other moment like slightly after where this version of her does her taxes, it goes home to do her taxes, and she warps into that body during a fight, and then like is talking to her husband, and she just gets punched and then warps into the body, and he's like, I'm not trying to hurt you. It's like so good. And then it's like perfect, the different moments and how they ping pong off each other, and you see visual explanations of emotional or like metaphysical concepts like very quickly.
And after that, they give her the options like, all right, so what are you going to pick? Are you going to pick what's important to you now or what's important to you always? And for someone who's just learning that they have that ability, what do you do?
Yeah, exactly.
Of course, you're like, shut the fuck up, my taxes. You're a crazy man in a closet. I'm split in two. This woman is talking about her taxes. Like, of course, you're gonna have her mentality and be like, shut the fuck up, let me go.
This is important. This thing is, you can't expect me to give a shit about whatever you're talking about. Well, this is all I've known. And then he like,
this is the first 30 minutes.
We haven't even crossed that was the cross the threshold moment. So like the fact, and it's so nice because like the moment she buys in is the moment that he like holds her chin and says like, I know you. Like, I know who you are.
She's never felt that before.
No, or she might have, but it was like the reason she fell in love with her husband. And so she's like reconnecting with that. And she makes that same face like twice in the movie, where she like has this like really just all the emotions drop away and she smiles a little bit. And she's just like, I know you. I know that you've always wanted to do something big and you've never had the opportunity.
I'm so
and that
useless.
This is it. And then she like smiles in that multiverse. And then it goes to the accountant and she's like, are you smiling? Like, is this funny to you?
This is nothing funny here.
Exactly, yeah. And then she's like, no, I'm paying attention, I swear. And then that version of her husband gets killed. She's like, she screams. And then that version of Deirdre, the IRS agent, comes and hits her with a pipe so hard it knocks her back into the other universe. And then she like screams and everybody's like, what is happening? And she's like, okay, I'm paying attention. Everything's fine. And then we have the moment she's like, I need to get out of here. And the lady, this is also another key moment, is that Deirdre, who from the commercials and from everything we've seen of her, is just like a really mean person. And she even says, she's like, oh my God, this lady is ruining our lives and my husband makes her cookies and like makes a little smiley face cookie. And then Deirdre's just like, I'm gonna regret doing this, but you have till 6 p.m. Just go, collect yourselves. I can she has like at least a little bit of emotional intelligence to say like, I know this won't be beneficial for me to hold you here and just make you like torture you. So go home, it'll be fine. Thank you for the cookies. Whatever. She leaves, but she still has this mean look on her face. And then when she goes to like do another nice thing, which is return their taxes, Michelle Yeoh punches her right in the face. And then
you fucked up lady, exactly. Like shit like that.
And she says like an IRS agent, like it's like a government employee. And then she goes and hides behind a cubicle. She's like, yes, the police.
Police.
We're on the 10th floor or whatever. And then so that leads into the coolest action sequence, because the directors have talked about this, that he has the fanny pack.
Yeah.
And one of the directors says, like, when I was a kid, my dad, like, that's kind of part of the Asian stereotype for tourists is they all have these fanny packs. And so he said, like, my dad had a fanny pack, so I wanted him to have a fanny pack. I wanted them both to have these hallmarks of, like, when I was a kid, said the director.
Yeah.
And so he has the fanny pack, and he's like, now we got to use it as a weapon. He uses it as a meteor. He flips it around. But the thing that's cool...
A meteor is a ball and chain type tool. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing that, and people have said it's like, oh, it's like nunchucks. I'm like, no, that's not what that is. But the thing that I love about it is that this leads me to another part of this, like, huge onion that is this movie.
Yeah.
Is that, you know, the bald guy, the security officer,
yeah,
that comes out and says, like, okay, calm down, whatever.
Yeah. He does the whole thing.
I don't know that guy's name, but he is actually part of this YouTube channel called MartialClub. Do you know about this?
No.
There's a YouTube channel called MartialClub.
Okay.
And all they do is like fight scenes and stuff. They have about 700K subscribers. They might have more by the time this comes out. But they've done that for a while, and they actually are stunt choreographers in Hollywood.
Oh.
Do you know the movie that they worked on right before this?
John Wick?
It was Shang-Chi.
Oh shit! Okay, cool.
And it's funny because you remember the guy that had a mask? His name was the Death Dealer.
Yeah.
That was one of the guys from the show, from that channel, and he has like BTS scenes of him like at conventions talking about Death Dealer.
Oh.
And it's so nice to see them like in this movie because like they have faces. You see their faces. These are the guys. They're not in a stunt outfit. They're not in a costume.
Yeah.
This is them. And so he is the first one that shows up. And then later on, you know that guy with the pipe that shows up? And then he has the scene. We'll get to it. We'll just get to it when we get to it. But that's the guy from MartialClub. And so they're actually stunt choreographers. They have a BTS. I'll link it in the description. They have a BTS sequence of them like on Everything Everywhere All at Once, just kind of like chilling out with Michelle Yeoh and everybody and like doing the stunts. But it's amazing because that was the moment that I'm just like when I researched this, and I'm like, this movie was basically the rap party for Shang-Chi. Because Shang-Chi filmed, and then they got a lot of those actors off that movie. Michelle Yeoh was in Shang-Chi. She was the aunt. Stephanie Hugh, I don't know if it's Hugh or who or how, it's HSU is her last name. She's the daughter.
Yeah.
She was in Shang-Chi for like a scene. She was their best friend in the bar that says like, you guys aren't doing enough with your potential. Do you remember that scene?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was her. So both those actresses came off that movie onto this movie, along with the whole stunt team.
Yeah.
And the thing that I love about it is that they were hearing them in interviews is so nice because switch to me. Hearing them in interviews is so nice because you hear them actually talk about how much the set and the entire feel was so just warm and inviting and fun, and they all had a great time. But also the fact that this movie came out right before the pandemic happened. So this movie, they started writing it in like 2010, the idea. And if you go see their short film, linked in the description below, probably it's called Interesting Ball. It's very similar. It's just weird and wacky little things. But they worked on it for so long, only to scooch up against the pandemic, which almost stopped them from shooting. So basically, like, it went from Shang-Chi to this movie for a lot of these actors and actresses. And I just love it for the fact that Stephanie, the character that plays the daughter, she hadn't really been in anything super huge that worked with her acting range. Neither did Michelle Yeoh. Michelle Yeoh's never been a protagonist before.
How can I say? Yeah, because like she's been known for like the martial arts movies and whatnot. She was in
she's a supporting actor.
Crouching. Was she in that one?
I don't remember, honestly.
I don't remember. Anyways,
yeah, she's done so many movies. Same thing with James Hong, who's the grandpa, and same thing with the guy that plays that was in Indiana Jones. And I love it because the directors deliberately said during interviews, they're like, it was like this beautiful taming of untapped potential. And I'm like, it's so real. And the fact that they were butted up right against the pandemic. So all of that to say that that was me just kind of shedding some light on a lot of these actors and like where they had come from to then get this movie that just allows them to do so much because it's the multiverse.
Yeah.
If you have to play a bunch of different characters yourself, when I saw Us, the movie, the Jordan Peele movie, I was like, holy shit, those actors had to like play two separate characters very well, sometimes against each other.
Yep.
This movie, you got to play 30 different characters, and they all get their moment in the sun. And the reason why I wanted to like bring up MartialClub is because by the end of the movie, that bald dude, you remember him, and you remember like the scenes that he's in. No other movie do you really give the stunt coordinators and the stunt team that much attention.
Especially like, how can I say, like lines and any character, especially. Usually when your job is like, okay, you're gonna show up, you're gonna fight, that's it. You just go over there and disappear, fight, blah, 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 and that's it. But he comes in, he's out of the elevator, he's like, what's going on? What is all this? So like they even try to explain everything and shit. No, they give him a chance, which is cool.
Yeah, and then from there we have the cool fight scene with the fanny pack. Oh my god, it's so cool. But then we also get the introduction
of too. You get to see a lot. It's really dope.
And I love the changing aspect ratios in the movie.
Oh,
that is
dude,
just like, ooh, it's just a warm
Reminds
hug.
me of.
Reminds me of a weird
Anyways,
short film that could be on our channel. That's so weird.
Anyway.
Go watch Time. But then we have the moment where like they do the fight scene, and we see that there are rules to the magic in this universe. Damn it!
You don't just willy-nilly just do whatever you want with it. You have to do shit to achieve it.
It's so useful.
And it's difficult, just like the concept.
That like the whole idea is that if you want to use the version of your other self, you need to put on these silly earphones, but you also need to do something that will shoot you into that universe. You need a slingshot across the multiverse to get to that version
kind of like
yourself.
what is it called though? Those telemarketers?
Oh,
They like switch it for you. They tell you it's like
switchboard operator.
Switchboard operator is like, okay, so you need to do this to get there. Let me get you there. Boom. Something like that. Similar enough.
Yeah. So they're like, and it's like the Matrix where he's like calling in the operator and doing that. Literally the operator. Yeah. So when he does that, he takes like the piece of chapstick out, like, and they're like, they think it's a weapon, and he's just like, and they're like, what the fuck?
Everyone in the theater went, it's an awful, gross feeling.
And it's those kind of moments where you're just like, this is weird and interesting. And you're like, wait, how did he get that superpower? In my mind, I thought it was like, you need a certain chemical in you, and it just isn't chapstick. But it's like, no. It could be anything. It just needs to be weird. And so like, he does that. He's triggered by that to have this cool, oh my god, that badass meteor fight. And then, and there's like parts of comedy in it where he like puts the pebbles in it, like from the fish tank, and then makes it like this really heavy meteor. And then he hits one guy, and then the bald guy comes in. It's like, oh no, Craig! Oh fuck! And then he gets hit in the face. It's like, yes, this is so fun. So he beats all of them. And he's like, no time to explain. We gotta go. And then when they're going, they then like go to a room and are basically like they cut away a couple times, and we see that the daughter is the bad person, like this something Tupaki something Tupaki, and that we then see the king of match cuts, in which she's like she goes to the universe where they just killed Michelle Yeoh, like when they were in the closet, and then says, look, the beautiful universe person.
This version of you was the worst one, or whatever.
Well, no, not yet. Like, we haven't gotten there yet, but we will. I don't want to retell the whole movie, but she says like, oh, here's our universe bringer, blah blah blah, and she goes duck duck goose, and like their hair is moving because she's just so full of energy, like fucking Super Saiyan, and then her fingernails change. And then she says, like, this isn't it. And then she does this thing where she goes like this. And then it, like, warps between the different... And it's just all match cuts. And we see that, like, here's match cut time. And this whole movie is just so many very simple things, very simple filmmaking things that are put on screen. And I love that, like, when they say it's the, like, taming of untapped potential. Yeah. Every single thing that they did in the movie, when I was watching, I'm just like, that's a YouTube tutorial I've seen. Like, almost all of them. In particular, you remember when they had like the light glowing on their faces?
Oh yeah, dude, you could see it in their fucking eyes.
It's 3 Asteras.
That's it. The triangles.
And it looks perfect.
Yeah, it looks
so
awesome.
Good. And that's the thing, is that like watching it, I'm like, this is literally every tool in the toolbox being put on screen. So we're introduced to
and
the
being
evil
used
person.
extremely well, by the way. Like usually, the example that you see on the faces, you see this example on Mandy on Mandy where he's like talking to her and it's like the face is just morphing. They don't use too much light in that. But like in this one, they used it's that famous video of the woman who has like a million emotions, and like it's just this light going around her, and like her face is constantly changing. And in this one, it's just constantly changing all of her fucking like things. Like, who'd have thought? It's like they're using the right tricks for the right reasons, and it's rare and it's cool, and I love that.
And apparently, all of the editing was done during the pandemic between 5 people, just like individually on their computers.
You got 3 years to get this shit to edit, bro. Take your time.
And apparently, A24, like the entire time, they're just like, we trust you. We think this is going to be good. You already did Swiss Army Man. We trust you guys. But they could have released it earlier, but they're like, this is a theatrical experience. We will not release this on streaming. And so that's why like they took so long. Like a butted up against fucking Doctor Strange, which is super annoying.
So that decision being done, compared to like, this is me just talking about A24 and how much I admire them.
Yeah.
Like A24 can do that. Why can't Disney? Why can't all these other like bigger companies who say he's like, no, that has to come out this day, and as soon as that happens, problems fucking happen. It's like, oh, you need this movie released at that date? Shit. Well, guess what? We need to do retakes. We need all this other shit. And just anyway.
Which I mean, Star Wars just released news that they are no longer doing movies and shows and whatever like in these weird parallels. They're chasing one continuous story. They said.
Okay.
That's what I think is Disney's problem with Marvel, is that they're like, okay, well, for us to release WandaVision, we need to do that, and then we're going to have the Multiverse of Madness, but we need Shang-Chi first, and then we need all this other stuff. And they all predicate themselves on the last one. A24, they fund and make movies. So they're like, cool, we can hit this release window for you. We think that this movie would do well here. We're basically just investors that want to make sure that you do well. Yeah. Just like because we'll make money too, but you know, we want people to see your film, so we'll make money and you get a good film. Yeah. So, and a good reception.
It just shows a little bit of care. Yes. That's all. It shows fucks being given.
Yeah.
That's all.
And more flexibility that they have, I think. But like, I keep doing this because I love this. I just
It's a good fucking movie, dude.
It's so good. But so from there we have the like introduction of the bad guy, and then she gets her own fight scene where she keeps warping people in and out of realities. So she like grabs. It's so good. The only person that makes it out of that is the bald guy. Yeah. He's the only one that gets to live.
Basically.
And that's because she
not comfortably though.
That's because she gets to beat the shit out of him with 2 dildos. Yeah. And it's so good. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's funny because in the behind the scenes footage from MartialClub, they have the bald guy teaching her how to do it with 2 dildos.
That is so fucking cool.
Good. It's amazing. But she has this cool sequence where she's like showing them as like, I am the most dangerous thing in the universe. It's your daughter. And she, and we have a moment right before that where like the husband is showing her, what's it called? Michelle Yeoh. Like, okay, well you can tap into those versions of yourself, but
put this thing on. Yeah,
but you can't stay. You can't do that because that's not what this is for. You're just supposed to use their abilities. And she's like, but that other version of me is like a rich actress.
So much better than me now.
Exactly. And they have a Rick and Morty moment where they're like, well, if I didn't have my kid and didn't leave China, I would be a big actress with everything, and I would be rich, and everything would be amazing. And it's coveting this other version of yourself, and that leads into the idea that this movie is an immigrant story, which they apparently when they started they didn't want it to be. Didn't want it to be. They're like, I don't know if we want to do that, but then the more they did it, they're like, this makes a lot of sense. And listening to stories from my family, it's just like this movie hit all of the beats for me because you hear nothing but like, yeah, when I was a kid we used to do this and whatever, and they can't do that anymore because they don't live there and they had to leave their home. And that like when you see the movie and she's like, well, what if I stayed? What if I didn't do this? You hear a lot of that from if you have parents that had to leave or do whatever, or I mean like you had to move yourself
in general. Like, yeah, exactly. Like it's how can I say, it's one of those set of words that is a little too real to be in movies. It's like, what if I fucking did this different? Yeah. And it's a hard fucking set of words to say to yourself, especially.
Exactly, yeah.
And it's
and we get the moment where she says, and it's a little bit later, but where the husband says like, no, I see, she's just like, I'm not the version you're looking for. And he's like, no, I see it clearly now. You're the one that made every wrong decision in your life. you're the one that amounted to literally nothing. And the benefit of that is that you are so tangentially close to greatness that you can tap into all of your best versions of yourself. But you're the fucking worst one, basically.
You're the worst one.
Yeah, like you just, you fucked everything up.
Yeah.
And so that's why you're perfect for this very specific problem. And so then she can tap into the fighting version of herself, and then her daughter comes down the hallway and is just like, I'll kill you, like it'll be funny. And then she's just like, wait, you're different than most of the versions of my mom I've met. Let me show you something. And then she does the vagina thing that people do.
So this is what I like about this kind of thing, right? You can be smart.
Yeah.
You can be smart, but explain shit in such a dumb, funny little way that everyone fucking gets it.
Yeah.
Like that entire joke.
It
might have been a joke to the audience, but that explained fucking everything.
Exactly.
Everything.
Yep.
Everything. Even the whole like, and we're about to hit on it. It's getting
the
close
bagel.
to the bagel.
Yeah. Where?
So you want to do it real quick? Let me see it.
Okay. There we go. Yeah.
Oh my god.
So they go and they visit the bagel, and they already like Chekhov's gunned it, where he's just like, she's building something, it's huge, and blah blah blah, and it's going to impact the entire multiverse, and it's the reason why you feel like your clothes don't fit as good the next day, and your coffee doesn't taste as good.
You don't remember things differently and shit like that.
Exactly.
It's all they make it seem like. How can I say
it's her fault?
And they make it seem like this is a weapon that will annihilate everything. Like they make it seem so ominous, right?
Yeah.
And then
she's like, I got bored one day and I put everything on a bagel.
Literally everything.
It's an everything bagel, and it's so funny because it's like that. So, and the movie's broken up into chapters. So the first chapter is everything. So she puts everything on a bagel, and then it collapses in on itself. But the first time I saw it. When you're first learning Blender, there's a tutorial called the donut tutorial. So when I saw it, I'm like, did they make the donut tutorial and like put it in their movie?
A whole bunch of like editors and VFX artists are like, like laughing at it.
Yeah, but
you got paid for doing this. Yes.
Yeah, and so she has the bagel and she shows her that like, it's ultimately saying that like, so. The whole movie, and we've talked about it, you mentioned at the beginning, that like the movie, everything, everywhere, all at once, is too much. It's like a Lovecraftian horror, you can't look at it all at once.
Yeah.
It's too much for your brain, and it's a symbol for the world. We keep getting bombarded by all this bullshit.
Everything is happening, always.
But it's so much that it leaves us feeling empty. And so this everything bagel is the idea that like we have all of this stuff and it turns into this cycle, but it's so empty. And like the actual image itself
center of it
like
is nothing. Yeah.
Exactly. It's collapsing in on itself. And she's just like, and it leads her to believe that it's just like, I could do anything. I could make this bagel and it collapse in on itself. So nothing matters.
So therefore, what's the point?
Exactly. Yeah. And then so we cut away. She gets away, and we have the moments where, well, she doesn't really get away. She gets back into her body, and she's about to fight again.
She kind of lets her go.
Well, yeah, because she's just like, I just want someone else that gets this. I don't want to kill everybody. Who cares? Like, she's the version of Wanda from the movie, where it's just like, no, I'm just fucking around to fuck around. Yeah. I just don't care. Like, I don't need to kill you.
I'm Bugs Bunny, but they gave me the pencil and eraser.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And her whole mission is to find her mother. So when the other versions of herself, the other version of her dad in that van, like, are driving, and then they
literally driving in circles in a savannah.
Yeah, exactly. And then they say, like, there's a quick, like, foreshadowing that says Hail Bagel on it. Yeah. And so they're just like, well, she gets out of the body, the daughter's body. She gets away with the dad and the husband. Yes. Because the dad... So her father drives the wheelchair into her and knocks her across the room. He's just like, I'm not your father. I'm the one from the other universe.
I'm not your original father. This other one.
We have our own Professor Xavier.
Basically, they have.
And so they run away. They run to this room, and then they're like, he's trying to explain it. And then the daughter gets warged out of, and she's just herself.
So going back to the father, and same motive, right? Just like at the beginning, he just wants it to be exactly how it was. Yeah, that's it. No matter who the fuck they sacrifice. I'll sacrifice my own daughter and granddaughter. He doesn't give a shit. Yeah. That's his motive. Sorry, go on.
And he has that moment where he's just like, I'll sacrifice them, and she's just like, that's your granddaughter. And she's like, he's like, how do you think I feel? And he's like, go fuck yourself. Like, you don't care.
Oh, dude. He tries to level her. He tries to use it against her. It's like, how do you think? Yeah, anyways,
But it's also two things. It's one of the like jadedness of it. It's just like, how do you think I feel? But two, I think it's also true that he's so old and seen so much that he's like, I get it. I get where you're coming from, but this is necessary. And I felt this pain so much. It's enough. I get it. It's whatever. And he says like, I won't lose another loved one again. But it's just like, I think it's also indicative of that character. Like if you're looking at this from the idea of these archetypes, you have the old man that's set in his ways. He's seen so much that he's just like, yes, I get it. It sucks. And I know that it sucks, but you'll get over it soon, just like I have, kind of thing. And it's like interesting that moment is just very simple, but it like indicates deeply this character that like he's just been through a lot.
He's been through a lot, and how can I say? It's not that he's been through. I feel like it's two things. He's been through a lot, but he's also been through like the same shit constantly, which is why like...
And he knows what to say to get her to do shit.
Exactly, like it almost felt, it's borderline manipulative.
100%, no, 100%.
Because like he uses all this knowledge against her and like he tries to justify it, and thankfully the movie continues to say, hey, we cannot be doing that.
Exactly, and then they tie up the daughter, and then he's just like, no, you're controlled like puppets, like that Raccacoonie movie.
Yeah, Raccacoonie.
So good. And then they like have that entire sequence where she's trying to like explain it, and then they're just like saying, they're like, what are you doing? And it's like real, because it's like when somebody's trying to explain to somebody, but like they're doing a completely terrible job.
In the universe, I'm a hibachi chef. And there's this motherfucker who I hate.
No, but she didn't even know that part at that point. She just was misrepresenting Ratatouille. But since the multiverse is so vast, she ends up warging into the version of herself that lives in Raccacoonie, which is so good. And so like she's explaining it, and then the dad is about to like try to kill the daughter with a gun, and then says like, she's like, no, Dad, I'm going to. That's her moment of like, no, I'm going to do this my own way. And she starts like doing the dance and like gathering just a bunch of versions of herself's like experiences. And she's just like, what are you doing? And it's basically the moment from The Matrix. Like, she's starting to believe.
She's starting to fucking realize. It's like, because like she goes a little bit off protocol.
Exactly,
right?
They tell her she doesn't know where she's going.
She doesn't know shit. She still kind of doesn't know shit. They tell us like, hey, you can't stay in those fucking versions, whatever. Like, I don't think they tell her why she shouldn't. I think they just tell her, just don't do it, because you're gonna think you're better off this way, and you're gonna fuck everything up again.
Exactly. Or they say your mind will break, like your daughter.
They tell you your mind will break, and you start doing all this shit. She's where was I going with this? she all these stuff is still happening. She's not a master at it. She goes, fuck it, I have one device.
I only have so many options.
And she suddenly knows something. She starts using that, and like everyone's like, okay, she's starting to fucking get it. Let's go. Oh, she's starting to become dangerous now. Like she starts going, or they start thinking that way.
So she runs into the safe room that she knows because she warged into the maid version of herself, and then pushes her dad out. The dad starts amassing all of these people. So the thing that I love,
we haven't left the IRS building,
which is great. That was another reason why I'm like, this is genius, because they use one location, and I'll get to that in the trivia section about why that location is important. That they're just using this one building, and that everything that we thought was important before, we're like, oh, she's going to get arrested and go to jail and blah, blah, blah. That doesn't matter anymore, because now they're taking over all of the people's bodies, the police officers, the guards. They bring them all in, and they're just like, okay, open up. We're going to throw some gas in there. We're going to hurt you. And then she ends up like warging into versions of her body that one of them's blind and can sing. So she not only doesn't need to see through the fog, but she can hold her breath.
For a long time,
And then she gets the one with the pizza sign. And she does the cool like shield action sequence, which is, so badass. And then we finally get to the point where she's just like, okay, she throws the gas mask to her family, and she basically gets out of there. And then they start running away. And this is where I was going with the MartialClub. Is that when they leave, there's this guy that shows up with 2 pipes, and they're back in the cubicle area. He starts like hitting the pipes on stuff, and this is when she starts using the hibachi chef like skills. That guy with I don't know if he had red hair in the movie. No, he had black hair. And they start fighting. That guy was Death Dealer in Shang-Chi. Oh. So he was the guy with the mask in Shang-Chi.
Fuck yeah.
And he's in a bunch of MartialClub videos. They're very fun. Go watch them. But they end up fighting, and then she hits his ear, and he loses his jump pad, they call it. He's like, hey, I need another jump pad. And he looks over at the dildo, or the butt plug, and then he starts trying to use the dildo
to insert it. Yeah.
Yeah, she's just like, oh, and then the daughter's like, oh, he's trying to put that in his butt.
The entire time his ass is on the seat. Like, trying to get in there.
And that illustrates another thing about, goddammit, that illustrates another thing about the fact that the movie is no other movie could make a scene where a guy's trying to kung fu get a butt plug in his ass compelling. Because if he does that, he's going to be lay epic karate guy.
Exactly. So and they're trying to avoid that.
Exactly. So she's trying to move it around. But then we get the bald dude swan dive in. And then you just get the cut of him he hits the thing and then turns around and goes dink, and then powers up, and then he starts fighting her, and then the other guy she's kind of beating his ass, and then another guy comes in, punches her. It's the other guy with an even bigger
he has a whole trophy of his ass and not just a small butt plug.
It's so good. And so they end up doing an incredible fight scene. Those are the two guys from the MartialClub.
That's awesome.
And it's so good seeing them on their channel to be this is adorable. They're just cool, seem like cool people. But then she does a slow-mo, pulls both of the butt plugs out them, and then has her cool final pose with the butt plugs.
And they all, the thing is, it's almost like a Power Rangers moment.
Yeah,
where, she does the thing, and them in the background just...
Yeah,
collapse.
They fall into and dust particles fly everywhere. Yeah, it's so fucking cool. And then so from that scene, I'm trying to remember what happens exactly immediately after that. But then we start primarily going in between all of these different universes. So they're trying to leave, but they end up getting to the bottom of the stairwell. And the grandpa's there, he has the guns, and he's just like, hey, stop. Yeah. And then the version of her daughter that's bad comes back and says hey, stop whatever you're doing. Come hang out with me. Just real quick. Ignore the shit. We're not so different, you and I. Yeah.
Exactly. They get on their gliders and
exactly. And so we have the moment where she's just does all that cool kung fu stuff. She gets pushed up against the wall and uses her pinky move, and it has a big ab on it, and she pushes people away. And then the husband is there, and she's like, look how cool I'm doing. He's just like, I did see it, because it's me. And then he takes off his glasses. She's like, oh, hey, do you see how cool I am? He's like, yeah, I did, but I'm dying. And then exactly. And he 999, exactly. But it's actually a weirdly tender moment, because you're like, oh, I like that guy. He was super cool. And he has the urn of his wife his dead wife on the thing. And so he dies. And now she's really upset about it. But then the daughter and her start talking and talking about okay, well, this is what you've done. This is how all this stuff goes. And she's just well, you don't have to. They have this little exchange.
And the entire time the daughter is trying to explain to her is dude, it's you're about to get your powers. I get this. You're getting there. You're starting to become a cool guy. Yeah. Mm-hmm. None of it matters still. None of this still doesn't fucking matter. And she even goes through the whole stereotypical at the end of this, you're just gonna die. Shit like that.
And this is the pivotal scene, the pivotal moment. Because she's done all this stuff. She's gathered all of these cool...
she now knows where she is in this awful situation that she's in.
And she's this epic version of herself. But we get to the really soul-crushing moment that she then is experiencing while nothing matters. She goes through the sequence with her daughter, and then she ends up using all that negativity and all of that hate and stuff like that to then hurt her husband. She stabs him, and she tells the Rakakuni guy that he's he has a raccoon, and then his raccoon gets taken away,
and he gets fired, and
and it's really funny because the first scene where you see the guy where he's hey, if you keep fucking up, we're gonna give your shifts to Chad, and he has the raccoon tail in the back of his while he's doing the cool stuff. But then we have this whole sequence in which she just is now seeing all of those, and like I mentioned, all these different arcs, all in this timeline. they're all reaching their terrible moment.
Yes.
Where she goes in for the kiss with this CEO version of her husband, where he's like, no, what are you doing?
Yeah,
You're basically sexually assaulting me. Stop it.
Yeah.
She goes in for she stabs her husband. She signs the divorce papers, and she breaks the window of her laundromat.
She yet again goes and makes all the wrong decisions.
Exactly.
As she would.
Exactly. And that's the moment where we see like all of the versions of herself like flash in front of, and they're basically all screaming.
Yeah.
And that's when she goes full red in every single version. She taps into every single version of herself, and then she turns into a fucking rock.
Yep.
And it's such a good...
The crux of the entire movie is in those rock scenes.
To have the moment where it's her and her daughter as rocks, and she's like, the daughter's like, oh, you're here too, and it's like,
what are you doing here?
Yeah, exactly. She's just like, where are we? It's just like, oh, a version where the universe couldn't create life. It's really nice and peaceful. It's just like
super nice.
Yeah, it's like, hey, wouldn't you love to just get away from literally everything?
Yeah.
And then they end up having this really nice conversation. And like I said with the butt plug scene, this is the only movie where you could have two rocks talking as text bubbles be legitimately funny.
Yeah.
Like them saying ha ha ha. Everybody in the theater is like, this is hilarious.
Yeah.
And it's so cute. And they both end up like I don't know if a bunch of you in college, a bunch of you in high school, you've probably had these conversations with your friends where you've been like in a really emotionally tender moment, and you've turned to somebody and been like, this all fucking sucks and everything sucks, and then they're just like, it doesn't matter, and I'm here with you, and I'm trying to connect with you. And that's what they have as fucking rocks.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful because they're just like, at the end of the day, literally nothing matters, and that like we're just here enjoying this moment together. And they like make jokes to each other.
Strip everything away. Like suddenly they were just strip the body, strip everything.
Literally.
Like mind stays the same, whatever.
Yeah.
Nothing matters here. Just like how I was saying, and like you said, everything is so fucking nice.
And it's just so far away. She even says, it's like everything's so far away, which is like what you want to do when you're feeling really anxious. And so they have this tender moment, and then the mom straight up is like kind of being a dick, where she wargs back into a version of herself where she's being handcuffed, and she's just like, the daughter's just like, where are you going? Like, she's like, be here with me, and just like they're about to walk into the donut and like basically unlife themselves and like wipe themselves from existence, and she's just like, where are you going? Stay here, come donut, like, or bagel. Damn it, I keep forgetting.
Like, we got a bagel to walk
She's
into.
like, bagel right here, and then she's just like, well, my husband's doing something stupid, and she's handcuffed and sees them arguing with Deirdre, and then he comes over. He's just like, she's gonna give us another week, and she's like, what are you? Why? She's like, I just talked to her, and then you see him start to cry, and I like. When I saw him start to tear up, I'm like, this movie's gonna make me cry. Not now, but soon.
Yeah.
And she then starts seeing like the versions of her husband that are all she's done the worst thing to all of them in all of their universe. But he still goes to bat for her, saying like, I don't know what's going on, and I'm confused, and I assume you all are too, and I'm scared, and I think it's all my fault.
Yeah.
And I just want you all to understand that we need to be kind when we don't know what's going on and when we're confused and upset. And I hope that you all can like, and literally everybody's like laughing at him, but then he like turns to her and she has that same look on her face that when at the very beginning, when that version of him that's like the eagle version, like is talking to her, and she's like, this is the moment she's so in love with him, the light starts spinning, and she starts to understand that it's just like, oh, I can be kind to, instead of thinking the whole world is meaningless and that nothing matters, it's like, yes, the whole world's meaningless, nothing matters, but that doesn't give you an excuse to be an asshole. It means that you can take every opportunity to make the best of it. Yeah. And it's such a beautiful, they even cut to the Rakakuni version, and she gets on his head and starts pulling his hair.
This is after she fucked everything up.
Yes, ruined the whole multiverse.
So she ruins the whole multiverse. She transforms into a rock. Yeah. Like literally strip her from everything. Yeah. It's like, you and I were on this journey. Let's talk it out. We're rocks now. Nothing fucking matters. They laugh it out. But like, this is the part that was like really nice to me. They were rock central. To me, it felt more like, okay, yeah, you were absolutely right. Nothing really matters. But is that one not selfish thought where she goes, "My husband is doing this. I just need to see," right? And in her head, she already had, like you said it. In her head, she already has it. It's like he's gonna fuck something up. I just know.
I can't trust him with anything.
Anything. And like he's just legit, just like everyone else, just trying to do his fucking best with the situation given.
And he says, and we cut to like all the versions of him, and the CEO version is saying like, "This is how I fight. You know, you can fight with your kung fu or whatever, and you're closing yourself off, but I fight with kindness." It's just like, holy shit, this is so good. And we see that Deirdre, who at the very beginning is like this big monster, literally like throws her across a room and like does these suplexes and shit and jumps down a stairwell, is like a human being that's like, when I got divorced, when I got divorced, I drove my husband's car through the neighbor's front lawn, or the front, like their front door. And then she's like, I get it, like life sucks and it's okay, and if I can, I'll give you another week for your taxes. And so same thing for like across the universe. And then you see the hot dog. We haven't talked about the hot dog hands version.
So that's what the whole like Rick and Morty thing happens.
I can't believe we haven't talked about the hot dog hands one.
Where like there's all these universes, and guess what? There's another it's a very important universe. Yeah. Where like everyone's like hot dog fingers, and like they have the TV show, and and they're like, "I love you."
Ketchup and mustard.
That's a joke that you and I have.
So funny. Yeah, right. It's just absurd.
Just absurd bullshit, and like they're in love with each other and shit, and they're just like in any other universe, they're going through their own fucking hardship. Yeah. No matter how, it's cool little messages like that.
And that's the whole crux of the movie, is that they can tackle every other of these universes, not as if they're, the way that they did it is like, if I was a student filmmaker, I probably would just be like, oh, there's a multiverse where you're a cowboy, there's a multiverse where you're a ninja, there's a multiverse where whatever. But to tackle them in the format of another completely genre of a movie. There's a version where they're kung fu fighting. There's a version where they're like in Magnolia. There's a version where they're like in a like Korean like noir film where it's like her and the husband's a CEO, and like all these different versions of these characters. And the way that the director
it's the same
said,
fucking problem.
That's what they exactly. They all have their own like individual problems with like connection and being together. And that's where the director said that like, the movie is he said it's like a family drama that's interrupted by a sci-fi action movie. And the beauty of it is the fact that like I said, all of them hit those moments where all of them hit their like worst point when she stabs the husband. And all of them, she turns in the guy for Rakakuni. She divorces her hot dog finger wife. Or she leaves. The CEO guy pushes her off of her. And then we have the uplifting moment where she gets on the Rakakuni guy's shoulders and is pulling his hair. And then
these are all she makes these choices. And this is after like the whole like she realized like the whole husband thing is like, oh, I have the innate ability of fucking shit up. Maybe have the ability to make certain things right, or at least try. Try. Like you said, he gets on his head and starts like using him, and he's like running fast. Exactly. And then suddenly it's like, I can't do it. I can't get there. And she's like, fuck, I tried. I could still try again, and like gets him on her shoulders and shit like that.
And it's a perfect intercut because during that exact moment, the daughter, you can hear her voice. She's just like, it's just a statistical anomaly. That's one thing. It doesn't mean that it's okay. And eventually, everybody's gonna get tired and not want to do anything. And that's when you cut to like her like failing or whatever. And then and then he gets on her shoulders and then does the thing. But also, really quick piece of trivia. You know the raccoon and it talks during the movie. That's Randy Newman's voice.
Randy
the like Disney musician that did like You Got a Friend in Me. That's
really?
Him. That's him. I don't know how they got him. But apparently, Sunlux, the people that did the music, one of them is just like, I don't know how, but they got the Rakakuni guy. Like, they got him to voice Rakakuni. And it was surreal for me to write a generic, like, You Got a Friend in Me song and have Randy Newman sing it. And it's just so cute that he's like the voice.
I would have never known that. That's awesome.
It's so cute. And he's like, oh, Chad, don't let them take me. And it's so funny.
And like, in the back of the car.
It's so good and ridiculous. But then we have the perfect like encapsulation of that with the googly eyes. Mm-hmm. So two things I want to remark upon is that the googly eye is the exact opposite of the bagel. The bagel is a black circle with a white dot. The googly eye is a white circle with a black dot. But it's an inversion of it because it's silly and formless and it doesn't like keep its same look. But also that like if you really want to get into it and do some like etymology stuff, googly is like Google. Google is comes from the word googleplex, which is the biggest number. Yeah. At one point, there's probably a bigger number now, but like it's such an astronomically huge number. So the word Google in googly, when she says Google eyes, is like it defines this is everything, like the word itself. But it's also silly. You can put it on stuff, and it's meant to bring joy to you instead of the pain that the donut does. The bagel, damn it. The bagel, so, so it's like this perfect inversion. And so she gets shot in like the Matrix, turns all of the bullets into googly eyes, and then that's her perfect moment of catharsis, where she has transformed completely, has gone through everything, and realizes, I can fight all of this negativity and my awful father and all of this stuff with positivity and go chase my daughter who's trying to either kill herself or like disconnect from me or like just go into this pit of sadness.
You're just gonna lose your daughter. You have to do something. Yeah. And like it's kind of like making it basically how I feel is like making the best out of the worst situation.
Exactly, yeah. And so he like fights them all with kindness. There's like Deirdre's about to like hit her with something, and then she stops. Yeah, with a paper cutter that like I'm so happy. I've always wanted to see those as a weapon.
In action, right? Yeah,
exactly.
Seriously.
Yeah, and then she like stops her with the feet. It's like, hey, in one universe we have hot dog hands and we love each other and we can use our feet real good. And then she like knocks everybody off him and then gives her a big hug and she's like, aw. I think she says like, I feel nothing, and it's like, oh, that's nice. Like she's trying to like that's like a therapist moment where she like reaches that like understanding where she's just like, oh my god, this is so good. Then she has the hug, she falls down, she like marries two people in midair. Yeah. She has the one guy the guy that's the BDSM guy with the gag. She puts a gag on his mouth and spanks him. That's one of the directors.
Really? Oh, dude, of course. I love that shit.
That's his name's Daniel. I forgot. They're both of them are Daniel. It's Daniel Kwan and Daniel other name.
He had like the secret like bookshelf with his fucking like Shades of Grey scenario. Yeah.
And he's cameoed in one other movie that he worked on called the Death of Dick Long was another movie he made. But he gets a cameo there, and then also when the donut is warped into their reality, there's another version of another guy that gets like sucked into it, and you see his face like warp, and then he gets sucked into the donut. Bagel, fuck. That was the other director, I think. He looked just like him. So they both get a cameo. But then she goes and uses kindness to like solve all their problems and goes up. And then she's about to get her daughter, and then the dad stops her and then says like, you gotta kill her, blah, blah, blah. Like she's beyond saving. He's just like, how could you let me go so easily when I was a kid? Like, how could you disown me so easily? I'm not gonna do that to my kid. I need to be better than you.
And it literally, when she says that, it cuts to the moment where she left him. And like, there was a moment where they even showed it. Yeah. I'm just imagining like shooting these scenes where like, as someone who's been like on sets and directors just don't know what the fuck they want and they just go like, okay, do it differently, but this time they're gonna do this. Yeah. It felt that way, but reasonable. Where they showed a scene, literally the same fucking shots, where it's like the dad and her together and he leaves, and then it's the dad alone and then they both leave and shit like that. The dad doesn't change expression, not a single fucking time. He's the same. He's just no matter what. So like, it's absolutely true. It's like how fucking you make it so fucking easy to like just let her go, whatever. Even after everything is like kind of like not pseudo resolved. Nobody's really trying to. I mean, people are gonna die, but like nobody's actively trying to get at each other. And I almost called her Pazuzu. My bad. What's her name?
Tupaki. Gogo Tupaki.
Gogo Tupaki. And she's about to walk in, and she's like, "Just let her fucking do it." No,
it's like, my daughter.
It's crazy how like it's meaningless to him. Everything.
Yeah, exactly. And then
as long as it's the same.
And then he and the father end up like holding the daughter back.
Exactly.
And the daughter and the mom have another moment that I think is incredible to include in this movie about something in particular. The moment that like the mom Michelle Yeoh's character, Evelyn Kwan, I don't think we've mentioned her name the whole time. Evelyn Kwan is the character's name. She then says she has this big triumphant moment where she grabs her daughter and her daughter's girlfriend and says like, this is your daughter's girlfriend, and then, or your granddaughter's girlfriend. And then the grandpa in that universe is like, a girlfriend. And he doesn't really mind much. Like, he really doesn't care. But then the daughter does something that I think is very important that this movie did. Where the daughter goes out of the laundromat and says, I'm happy for you, and whatever bullshit you're doing has nothing to do with my emotional journey. I'm glad you're getting fucking woke or whatever.
Yeah.
You're still a piece of shit to me a lot. That's not okay. And it's great.
The mother solves her own problems. This is what I thought the problem was.
Exactly,
It's like, I never...
It's all about me.
Yeah, because like, oh, maybe because like she thought, or this is how I'm interpreting, maybe through my parents or whatever.
Sure.
But like she was like, oh, my mistake was not telling her. Like, oh, I should have told my father. When like, sure, that's what you think, but it's like there's a lot more behind it. It's more like, why have you been trying to avoid it? Why have you been like, why have you been so dismeaning, or not dismeaning? Is that the right word?
Yeah, dismissive.
Dismissive kind of about like all this other shit, and like, oh. Now that you finally saw, you found the answers, you saw it yourself, shit hasn't changed with me. If anything, you just made shit worse because you just, how can I say, it's like when you try to help somebody but you just end up making shit worse. Yeah. It's like it just created this awful like scenario for her, an uncomfortable scenario and shit like that.
Well, also it's like that you try to help somebody and it just shows that like, it's like if you give to charity and then like write on Facebook, I just gave to charity. It's like, cool, we get it, and you did something good, but like, did you do it for the attention or did you do it for the good thing?
Yeah, do you do it for yourself or like shit like that?
Yeah, so the daughter's like, cool, you did something good, which honestly is the status quo, and you're pretending like you're just like some savior. What's wrong with you? Yeah. And then she like goes to her car and then says like, just let me go. Like, this is bullshit. And then she does let her daughter go in the like to the donut in the bagel, and then the bagel starts eating her, and then she has this moment where she's like, hey, stop. You don't call me enough. You don't do these things. And it's like, and we have a family plan. You can call at any time. Yeah. And it's like the moments that you realize are completely justified if your parent were to say that, where it's just like, you don't talk to me very often, and I love you, and you don't come and visit unless you need something. And it's just like those moments where it's just like, you're shitty to me too. It's like a two-way street. And I get that like you were probably having a bad time too, and that like, all of this stuff is happening, but I love you, and our love is what's supposed to transcend all the bullshit. Yeah. So
our love is supposed to be stronger than the bagel.
Yes. Yeah. And I don't know if like them getting together almost immediately after having that talk is realistic. It's like movie realistic because they're in that like drama version of them.
They had this scare where like she was almost fading and shit like that. Yeah.
But then it shows that like, you know, it's worth it. This work, all of this effort is worth it at the end of the day for your loved ones. And so she pulls her out, and they then basically, and she's just like, well, what are we gonna, she's like, this is kind of awkward. And she's like, well, I still love you. Yeah.
How many movies never touch that?
Exactly.
How many movies did is that not awful ending, but it's that ending where like everything is
and
great.
They smile at each other,
and then and like the end, and this was like, we're both really emotional. People are watching us. It was supposed to be, oh, this is supposed to be the grand opening of our fucking place.
Yeah. Or the Chinese New Year.
The Chinese. This entire time I thought it was like a grand opening or something like that. But it was.
I thought it was also supposed to be like the grandpa's birthday, but I think it was a Chinese.
Too much happening at one time. That's what it is. That's what it is.
And because the husband even says like, well, I wanted to like talk about this divorce so that we could start off the new year right. So it's all kind of around the new year, which is cyclic. Wow. So like, it's all about like the repeat of stuff, and that this is life. You're in this together, and that we all just need to be kind to each other. And so they have this awkward moment, and I think that might have been an ad lib from that actress that plays the daughter who killed it in the movie. Like she hasn't had like none of these actors have had, like I said, this really juicy part that has so much in it, and this movie gives all of them so much room. And it's funny because, like she just seems like this really funny kind of person in all the interviews, where everybody else is just like, yes, as an actor, I try to do this or that. Or they're like trying to be really like Hollywood nice. Yeah. And then she's just like, you motherfuckers. Like, she just seems really sly and fun.
She seemed very flexible. To be able to play somebody like as like super cocky, super like, yeah, well, like as like that, and then someone as like timid, just like
really emotional and shy,
super emotional, borderline just fractured, like broken, not knowing what to do, who, what, anything, shit like that. I can only imagine the strain. And to be able to go into interviews and be like, yeah, it's all bullshit, whatever. Like, good for her, seriously.
But she's just like, she just seemed like all the interviews she's super cool in, but it's the kind of thing where it seems like she understands that just like, yeah, no, this is just all of us living and being cool. And then we get the moment at the very end where we had just had everything. Part 1, everything. Part 2, everywhere, which is when she's jumping across the multiverses. And then we have all at once, which literally my friend was sitting next to me and he's just like, I really hope this isn't that much longer. Because like, when it says all at once, I thought those were going to break up the 3 acts. And I'm glad it didn't. Because the all at once was the denouement where it's like the end, where are they now moment in the movie. And so we have they're like, okay, cool, we got our taxes together, we're gonna go, they go get together, everybody's in a much better mood in the morning, and then they go to the place and Deirdre's like, okay, this is better, like deliberately gives them positive reinforcement, but then she's still kind of a shitheel where she says like, she's like, so you followed what I said, but you didn't. And then like kind of like reneges on her compliment. But then you see Evelyn, who's like looking around everywhere because she is now everywhere, everything everywhere all at once. But I think that's interesting because of the specific symbols in the movie. The movie itself uses the bagel and the googly eyes as like yin and yang like symbols of each other. That like they are the inverses of each other, that you can either be like, there's also nothing but like kindness versus emptiness. And that this movie, at the end, she is, if any of you have ever taken a meditation thing, she's now mindful. She now has taken a lot of the like, a lot of the things she's learned and is now willing to be grateful and in the moment and think about exactly what's happening and be like, cool, I'm here. I am paying attention. So good.
She just needed, this all took in one day. Like she just needed a one day of just absolute chaotic, dimensional chaos with her entire family. That's a really good analogy from the director, by the way. It's like, this is a family drama, but science fiction gets in just gets in there. And it's going back to the whole ending. Actually, I want to talk about the multiple endings because almost all of those dimensions have their own. Even the Rock one, where like the Rock is like,
they're chasing each other. It's like, I'm gonna get you.
Get away from me! No! And like, even though nothing matters, a little bit of fun can still be found. And like a little bit of like humanity, anything really can be awesome. It's really nice shit like that.
And it plays into the seriousness. That moment plays into the seriousness of it, where the daughter's like really, legitimately depressed and like having a lot of issues, and then she's getting like chased by her mom. She's like, I'm gonna get you, and she put googly eyes on it. She's like, you can't do that here. You leave me alone. And then it's just like a bit of fun that's just like, let's get you out of that mindset. And
or the why not? Why not?
Exactly. Yeah. And the movie, it's so beautiful because I love that. This is my favorite way that the directors described the movie. Is that they said the movie is, because they've made other stuff in the past, but some of it's very art house and some of it's very like silly, and they've tried to tackle a bit of like, this is still kind of important and it means something important, but we're still just silly bullshit. The moment that like, I really love this analogy, is they went out to make something that is like, anybody that sees the trailer should be interested. Let's try to make a movie that is interesting and fun to watch. So they said they wanted to make a blockbuster that had that bit of thing in it. So they called it, he's like, this movie's like a Beyond Hamburger. That like, it's junk food and you go and see it and you try to have a fun time in that, but once you digest it, it's good for you. And I love, it's so good. It's got a little bit of nutrition in it.
It's not like, how can I say? It's not like a movie. There's a lot of thought to be placed in this movie. Seriously, there's a lot of fucking thought.
We've only scratched the surface of this thing.
Right? But the fact that you said, and I agree with you, like it's one of those movies where like, how can I say, you and, especially you, I'll be honest, like very analytical minds. Like we think about the shot. Like, why was this shot here, right? But I went to see this with my girlfriend and I saw it with a couple of friends. And like, he loved it. Like my girlfriend, she's not very like crazy into movies, but like she loved it. It was like she was one of those like, this is a fucking awesome, fun, good movie. And like I'm gonna use your analogy real quick, where like you eat a juicy burger and this one happens to be good for you. It's not like one of those other movies where, and by others I mean like you eat this and you're like, why did I eat this? And then you look at you have to look at the fucking label and like, oh, that's what's in it. Yeah. Okay, now I guess I'm supposed to feel better.
What's xanthan gum? Why did I eat xanthan gum? Yeah, exactly.
Whatever. And this this was really nice. And the fact that you don't need to put this much thought. At the end of the day, you could just be like, oh, they're just using dimension versions of themselves to solve this problem, and that's it. Yep. Like, it can also be that as well. Yeah. I like shit like that, personally. Yeah.
So I want to wrap up this episode with, and it's been super long. I think we're going to break this up into 2 parts.
That's fine,
first dude. We do, but we'll link them together. I want to just rattle off some trivia that I wrote down.
Please.
And I'll try to link a lot of this stuff in the description, but I mean, there's so many links. When I was writing like the notes page, I'm like, oh my god, there's so many.
Did you take a notebook to the theater?
No, I'm actually surprised I didn't, if I'm being honest.
You gotta stop doing that.
The second time I was thinking about it, but I was like, let's just have a good time.
How do you write in the dark?
You don't, it sucks. It's awful. Yeah, you either do it on your phone and ruin everybody's day, or you write in the dark and you're like, wait for a bright scene and then do it.
There you go.
But yeah, so this movie took $25 million to make, and it made 50 back.
25 million is fucking nothing!
It really is
nothing in standard cinemas now.
Yeah, like most Marvel movies, 150 million minimum.
Yes.
Like 100 million if they're being really, really stringent. So like stupidly low for especially what it was. And apparently, which is super nice, like, so Stephanie, the daughter character, she in interviews kept bringing up the fact that she's like, every time I've been on a set, I always keep in the back of my head that like, oh, every minute of shooting is like $1 million or something, you know, like the old Disney or whatever, like idea that like, oh, this is very expensive. But apparently every day when the actors and everybody came onto set, they would do like warm-up exercises. And every week, and I want to do this now if I'm like, if we do another project, is that every week on like Friday, they would hand out an awards for like people that did a really good job or did something nice, for like the crew that were doing really good stuff. And it's just so nice. Like, and it just seems like the directors are really funny, but also just have a really cool humor about them and are just like really just giving so much energy to get back, and it seems like nobody had anything remotely mean or anything to say about it. Like they all just had an amazing time on set. This was the king of match cuts, I wrote down. Like every time they cut to a multiverse, it's just like a really good match cut. The first shot is a great match cut, where it's like the dolly zoom on the mirror, which is a circle, and they're singing karaoke.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. That's literally the first shot. I didn't even realize it.
Yeah, and it shows that the mirror is a portal to the multiverse, but that there is a universe where they're all just living the same life happily, using the things that they bought for fun, which is a karaoke fucking machine. And then we smash cut into the shit.
And they're not even that expensive, might I add.
And it shows that universe is so close to the one that they're in right now. Oh, it's so good. Yeah. So, King of Match Cuts, all the VFX were done, but like these YouTube videos that I've seen Corridor Digital or Freddie Wong do for the past 12 years, but there were only 5 VFX artists on the whole movie. The crew for the movie is like 1/20th of a Marvel movie. Like the actors and everybody, so few, and it's so interesting because like watching the interview linked in the description is like them just kind of shooting the shit about just like, yeah, we thought that this would be cool, we could do this effect. The scene where she's like warped, like she's being pulled back and the universes are going by and she's getting sucked through each universe during the jump was Daniel Kwan he went to like, I think it was New York, and took a shitty GoPro and turned the shutter all the way up and just walked through the city. That's what that shot is. They didn't needed a crew. So cool. It was just they pulled they kept opening the shutter so they could get those speed lines, but he just took all of those, then went to the VFX people and was like, cool, okay, you know the LED wall I keep talking about?
Yeah.
Instead of doing that, they got 2 like kind of TVs, put them on the side of Michelle Yeoh, and then had a green screen behind her and just made her do this. And that's the whole shot.
Incredible.
That's how they did all of it. And that's how they got the lighting on her, was just 2 big LEDs with projections of the shots on them. That's it.
Incredible.
Like it's so good to see, because it's just like, yeah, you can just make stuff and just you just need a good story, and it's So let me see here. The husband, the character he played in Indiana Jones. He did a lot of martial arts. He had the 3 different versions of himself. James Hong, the father.
Yeah.
Guess how many IMDb credits he has?
I mean, I've recognized him. I mean, he's been in Kung Fu Panda. He's in. He was in Balls of Fury. He was also I want to mention this one because it's funny. He was also in was it Saints Row? He was in Saints Row. He was in a video game where he plays himself.
Oh my god!
Where
good.
like he's just hemming it up. He's just himself. It's like, oh, your guy, his face disfigured. it's a creative character. We have to rebuild him.
Oh my god!
So do whatever you want. It's fun and like it's awesome shit.
Like that.
But anyways, how many?
650, and it was just this year that through a petition he got a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
Damn.
This year. He's 93.
And he's still doing his shit.
They need to do like a Patreon or some shit to get it to happen. And he's 93. It's insane.
He's not looking bad for 93.
No, seriously.
The fact that he's like still walking and cracking jokes.
Yeah, seriously. It's super fun. In the interviews, he was really funny too. MartialClub, super cool YouTube channel. They did Shang-Chi and then went right on to this.
That is so cool.
And apparently, like I said, it was right up against the pandemic that the last 2 days of filming were as soon as pandemic stuff hit. So they couldn't shoot anything with anybody next to each other. So the scene where they're in the RV talking about the divorce.
Yeah.
Neither of them are there. The husband's there. Michelle Yeoh was already in Paris on a different shoot, and they shot her against a green screen.
Dude, that's awesome. I would have never been able to tell either.
Right? Yeah, they did it with like a Zoom call. And it's funny because the shot is interesting. It's in another one of the clips in the link below. That in the background, she says like, he's just like, yeah, I'm not trying to hurt you. And then you see the hand come and grab her out of the RV. That's the director. That's one of the director's hands because they couldn't bring Jamie Lee Curtis there just for that one shot. They didn't even have Michelle Yeoh for that shot. So it's his arm in her shirt. And he like
that just goes, so cool.
And it's so good. And Michelle Yeoh had never been in a leading character position, which sucks because she's so good in this. And you get to see the full range of all these characters. That they get to do these cool action scenes. They're also very emotional and very funny. Like all of the ranges of everything. I said that this was basically the cast party for Shang-Chi. So let me try to cover everybody else before I get to this one thing. So I said Randy Newman was the raccoon. Son Lux did the music, and they actually, they didn't even get reached out to till after shooting. And they were just like, just fill the soundscape with a bunch of really cool sounds and stuff. And they told them, like, try instruments you've never played before. And they're like, yeah, fuck it. And they did. And it's super cool. VFX, there were 500 VFX shots. So across 5 people. So which is pretty small for, well, it's a lot still. But like for this kind of a movie, for 5 people to tackle is super cool.
The fact that there's not a triple digit number behind editing or behind effects is a rare thing nowadays.
Yeah. Oh my god. I'm just remembering shit about the movie. I just love this movie so much. Okay, the Daniels. 2 Daniels. They're the directing team. Whenever they make a movie, it says filmed by Daniels. It's so good. Daniels, they did Swiss Army Man before this. They did the Turn Down for What music video.
Really?
Yeah, that's why it's so...
Okay,
it makes sense, doesn't it?
The fucking going through the...
I really hope everybody goes and watches Interesting Ball. I actually have known of these guys since like 2012. I didn't realize because I'd been watching their stuff, but just did not keep up with them throughout. I was just like, this is cool. And I had seen everything they've done, but then didn't realize it was
it's yet another rare thing where you see people like on YouTube making it like cool fucking projects. Like I keep on thinking, you introduced me to them. Auntie Donna. That's so fucking cool. Seriously,
so good.
Such an awesome story.
So good. They called it like a Beyond Burger, Beyond Sausage, and they wanted it to like be they called it, this is specifically what they said, an exercise in untapped potential. Now, last thing I want to mention.
Yes.
Jamie Lee Curtis. We haven't really talked about her much on this. During all of the interviews, she was super nice. Everybody would be like, oh, she's the GOAT. We love her so much. And she was just like, no, fuck it. You guys are great. Like, you did an amazing job. Apparently, Key, the guy that played the husband, Waymond, he was... like on the first day back, like he had not done acting in so long, so he like did this. The first shot they shot was in the accounting scene where they're all sitting there, and so he's sitting next to James Hong, Michelle Yeoh, and has to keep eye contact with Jamie Lee Curtis. So he's just like, and he apparently had a panic attack. He was just like just chilling. But I mean, like his character's meant to be like
when
nervous.
no one has seen you acting as like this is what's going through my brain. Like I'm imagining being there. It's like no one has seen me since I was a kid, and here I am with very big fucking names. Here I am in this very big fucking set. Yeah, looking at I would panic too. I would feel like I'd mess it up too. Shit.
And apparently, like he asked Jamie Lee Curtis, he's like, "Was that okay?" And she's like, "That was fucking amazing." And he from that moment on was just like, "Okay, I can do this." It's so nice.
That's so good.
And so Jamie Lee Curtis was, and he even said, he's like, "I don't know why, but Jamie Lee Curtis is." So apparently they shot in this big office building for the whole thing. So, and the whole thing is in like the vast majority, like 80% of the movie probably.
The IRS building, right?
Yes, exactly.
So you'll get to it. It has its own.
Yes. So their trailers were just offices in that building. So he's like, I was in the office right next to Jamie, and I kind of just wanted to like poke in and like talk to her every once in a while just to see like how she was. And every time I went over to look, she wasn't there. And I was like, where the fuck is Jamie going? And I was going to like joke around. And then I went and asked him, like, hey, Jamie, where do you keep going? Are you like, do you have a secret life? And she's like, no, I'm just always around set. Like, there's always something to learn on set. And she's done so many movies and she's still saying that. And so he kept saying that. He's like, it was so inspiring to hear that. It's incredible that she's done so much. And then Jamie Lee Curtis, like, to undercut that, because I think she really meant that. But to undercut that, she ended up saying, like, so... I was buying chairs. Yeah. And he's just like, wait, what are you talking about? And she's like, so as soon as we went to this office building, a lot of you guys won't know, this building used to be an office building that was actually in use, but then the company that owned it went out of business. So when they went out of business, a big production company bought the building, and now they use it as sets for a bunch of stuff. Okay. And it's really useful because everything's already here. But what they didn't realize when they bought it is that they left all of the office equipment in there. So as soon as I got in there, I saw there were Herman Miller chairs everywhere. Yeah. And nobody knew what these chairs were. And they're perfect office chairs. So I went in and I have my own office. So I went in and just was like, who do I talk to about these chairs? I want to buy these chairs. And so apparently she was like frantically just going around asking everybody, who's just like, who owns these chairs? Let me buy them from you. And so she said, she's like, I made them a very generous offer in cash for these chairs. And she was like, I want 12. And they're like, okay, take them. And she's like, cool. And then I bought the chairs. And so she kept like undercutting the fact that like everybody's like, oh, she's so cool and nice.
I'm not there because I'm passionate. I swear. I just wanted the chairs.
So so I thought that was a good button, and she apparently is super nice. So yeah, man, it's just a great movie. Oh, last thing I just wanted to mention is that apparently the two people that they were going to get that they kind of changed during the production was early on they wanted, of course, Jackie Chan. They thought that it would have been fun to have this as a Jackie Chan movie, but that was very early on, before they had finished the script. Yeah. And they're like, you know what, this works way better if it's like a female immigrant story. It works way better. But then also, that the daughter was originally going to be played by Awkwafina from Shang-Chi and all those other movies. Apparently they had shot an episode of her show. It's called Awkwafina is Coming to Town or something. I forgot the name of the show. But they directed an episode and we're like, oh, she's really fun to work with. You know who else was on that show? Who? Stephanie Hugh, the person that actually plays the daughter.
Of course.
So when they couldn't get Awkwafina because she was working on Shang-Chi and all that other stuff, they were just, they realized, they're like, oh, Stephanie was really great. Why don't we just get her? And then
fuck yeah.
Here we are.
I think it worked out well because like, how can I say, as the environment of the average American viewer, you walk into, one of my favorite things is walking into a theater, walking into a movie and not recognize like a lot of the talent.
It's like a blank slate.
I kind of love that because to me, how can I say, it just feels more like a story. I'm not looking at Tom Cruise doing his thing. I'm looking at this person living this awful thing or living this scenario and shit like that. So I always like shit like that. Also, when this movie came out, Twitter blew up.
Did really?
Twitter was like, dude, like Asian lead like films, it's where it's fucking at right now. As soon as this movie came out, like all the good reviews came out, all this awesome shit. Amazing story from what you were telling me from this from I forgot his name. You said it so many times. The lead, the lead actor, the husband.
The husband, yeah,
like his awesome story and like realizing that it's so fucking cool.
Yeah,
There's
just so many layers to dig in about this movie, and I didn't even cover everything. Like, there's some stuff that I like.
There's a lot of shit.
Well, case in point, there are 3 Twitter threads that my friend sent me, and they're really cool and like cover how this actually is like it's a deeper. It's an even deeper Chinese story that each person's accents, when they go into different versions of themselves, are specific because presumably when she was like back over before she left her dad, like the character Michelle Yeoh's character Evelyn. The dad was speaking a specific type of Cantonese that they might only speak in Hong Kong. Because he presumably is from Hong Kong. But then when they cut to the version of him that speaks better English, it doesn't have an accent because he probably isn't from Hong Kong anymore because the universe exploded. So like each version of them has a different accent for their different multiverses. It's stupid. It's stupidly good. This movie
is just good thought put into stuff. And you don't see that a lot of the times. What did you walk away with this movie? When you walked away from the theater, what did you walk away with?
Oh my God. Nothing hit me harder than the husband, Waymond. Because I think a lot. I've been like on this huge since like 5 years ago. Try to be on this huge kick of life sucks. I get it. Everybody like is dealing with something, and that we just need to try to be kind to each other and have fun. Yeah. And so that moment where he's like crying, like really hit home because I'm just like, I get that whole thing of just like. I'm just trying to live my life and trying to make everybody happy. And some people are really fighting themselves and others to resist it. And it was just like, oh my God, that moment where, he's just like, she's just like, how did you do it? He's like, I just talked to her. I was like, oh, oh, it's so real. Yeah. Oh, it's so good.
It's funny enough, that's similar. Where like the connection with the father and the words that hit me the most is like, he was saying something similar like, everyone's facing their own shit, but this is how I fight it. Like, this is how I do my thing. And I was like, dude, literally, like, we all have all these different scenarios, all this other different bullshit. And the way he said is like, that's the way I fought my entire life. I survived it once, and that's just how it is. And like, people are kind of just that. We're all trying to live our own shit. Like, we all have our own problems, but we're all trying to fight it in our way and like just trying to make the best out of it. And so nice. That's a really good fucking message nowadays. You don't see that a lot.
You don't see that in Doctor Strange.
You don't see it in Doctor Strange. It's really nice. It's something that I've been, who doesn't feel that way? It's like, oh, we really wish we were somewhere else, and then like you realize like.
This is great.
Shit sucks, sure, but hey, at least I got a good friend to deal with it. Sometimes, I got whoever to do this.
Exactly.
It's good shit. It's good shit.
And the last thing that I think the directors, this is the quote that I think works, is that they said that like the movie's meant to be this giant, big, messy group hug for the human race. I'm like, I think that's really poignant. Because we're all in it together, and things could be bad, but they're not that bad.
On that point,
what are you doing? Don't hit me.
I'm gonna try something.
No!